Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Take 5 for Torah. Today is June 25th, the 29th of Sivan. And Wednesday we answer the question, why do we do that? This parsha, Korach, is the parsha of the Leviim and their claims against the Kohanim. Actually, it was mostly one Levi, Korach, who egged on 250 men with him. Chazal say that he lined up in the desert right near, it's pretty clear in the Psukim, but right near the tribe of Reuven. And Reuven had a claim, I'm the firstborn and I'm giving up all of this glory to the Kohanim, to the Leviim, right? It used to be the Bechorim, the firstborn, and look how much I've lost. So Reuven and Korach, who were camped together in the desert, they just egged each other on, and that's why On ben Peles and some others from Shevet Reuven were involved in Korach's revolt to begin with. So a question I will deal with now is some of the halachos regarding Leviim in various practices. We know a ton of halachos when it comes to Kohanim, of course, but let's talk about a few things that relate to Leviim. Right? If there are no Kohanim in Shul for laning, the custom is actually not to call up a Levi for the first Aliyah, and certainly not for the second Aliyah, because you can't call two Leviim in a row, and you can't call a Levi after a Yisrael. You only ever call a Levi in the Torah reading only after a Kohen. In fact, there's a Gemara towards the middle of the second parak in Ksuvos that says when they saw someone reading the Torah after a Kohen, and it was a different person, then they knew, that must be a Levi. Right? But when there's no Kohen in Shul, we say Nispar de Chavila. A Levi, sorry to say, only has kavod, only is a heightened honor when there is a Kohen present. But if not, again, we say the whole sack has been opened. But in some shuls, they will give a Levi the first Aliyah, but that sometimes is not fair, because a Levi sometimes gets Aliyahs every single day. And the 30 Israelim in Shul have to take turns, just once every 2, 3, 4 months. So when there's no Kohen there for the Levi to get an Aliyah when he doesn't really have to, doesn't seem fair. So that generally we just call up three Yisraelim. Sometimes if there are like two brothers who have yortzeit, we want to give both of them an Aliyah, we ask the Kohanim to leave the room, but we don't have to ask the Leviim to leave the room then. Full disclosure, that is not the minhag here. Our minhag is very sharp. If there is a Kohen in the room, we do not ever ask him to leave, unless he wants to, unless he has to, whatever. But we don't. If the Kohen is there, he should get the first Aliyah. Now, when it comes to benching, we say Bershus Kohanim, or we give the Kohen to actually bench. If there is no Kohen, we don't usually see anybody saying Birshus, Halavim, or Non Rabbanan Rabbasai. Again, for the same reason what I just said, that if there's no Kohen in the room, so technically speaking, there is also no Levi in the room. Now, the main job of the Levi, in fact, I've had in the past, on a few occasions, tried to identify an ancestor of a relative to see if they're Leviim by going to their tombstone, and very often you sometimes see this on the top of a tombstone of a Kohen, and on the top of a tombstone of a Levi is very often a jug, a jar. What does that have to do with being a Levi? Is that the Levi's job is to be a laver. You get it? A laver, that's why a lavatory is a washroom. A laver is a washer. Right? So the Levi's job is to wash the hands of the Kohanim every day in Israel, and on Yomim Tovim outside of Israel before they bless the people. It's the Levi that does so. I've often found over the years that there are always more Kohanim than Leviim in Shul. I know there are always exceptions to every rule, but it's just amazing because there are 22,300 Leviim and 3 Kohanim in the Torah. And those numbers seem to switch over by the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, because the Kohanim were much more careful with their lineage than the Leviim were. In fact, when Ezra and Nehemiah called everyone back to Israel, the Leviim basically didn't show up. And according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Ezra made the takana then that all the Masa Rishon, all the tithes we usually give to the Levi, went to the Kohanim, because we couldn't find Leviim. Okay, so we often see if there's no Levi to wash the hands of the Kohanim, we'll even open it up to Bechorim, to firstborn in the room. So that's an interesting halacha in itself. But these were halachos about Shevet Levi in the Wednesday edition of Why Do We Do That?